There seem to be more accounts of it chasing people, terrorizing people. People describe the face as being somewhere between a human and an ape. Very broad shoulders, no neck, very long arms.
From a video of a giant humanoid creature running across the mountain to disturbing shots of Bigfoot stalking a man in the woods, this is the terrifying Bigfoot footage you have to see to believe. Let's dive in. A group of researchers received unusual footage from a man named John. The video, filmed on a mountain peak along the Wasatch Front, showed a location tied to several Bigfoot sightings. John claimed he captured something strange that really captured the team's curiosity and sent them to investigate the mysterious area. At the time, they were in a valley at about 4,200 feet in elevation. They zoomed in on a peak that was about 9,000 feet. Using a spotting telescope, they filmed the creature moving horizontally, then climbing straight up a steep, snowy mountainside. They had to hold the camera lens to the viewfinder, doing their best to capture it all. It was almost a mile higher than the guys filming it, around 5,200 feet higher. They had to zoom in over 3 miles at least to capture this creature that was easily and quickly running across around 90 inches of snow. The sight of the creature sprinting effortlessly through the thick snow instantly grabbed their attention.
If you look very closely, you can actually make out that this is walking on 2 legs. It is one color from head to toe. That shows us it is not wearing clothing. You would be able to see differentiation in color, but this is one color head to toe, which indicates to me that this large bipedal thing is probably fur covered.
As they focused more, the group felt amazed and thrilled. It was hard to believe anything or anyone could move so fast in such deep snow unless it was incredibly strong and tall in height. When researchers received the footage, they were eager to analyze it. They wanted to determine if it was authentic, especially with so many hoaxes out there. To uncover the truth, they zoomed in on the footage, hoping to get a better look and figure out exactly what they were dealing with. But nothing could prepare them for what they were about to see. They saw a bipedal creature running across the mountain. The creature took a small break and ran off fast across the snow. The researchers couldn't believe what they were seeing. The snow in those mountains was about 90 inches deep, a fact they were well aware of. They explained that for a creature to move so fast through thick snow, it had to be incredibly tall, with feet sinking deep into the snow, and unbelievably strong, to move without struggling. It wasn't just running, but doing so uphill. The power and speed it showed across that snow left them completely stunned. What could it possibly be? To try and demonstrate how difficult it would be to run across the thick snow, they went hiking in the foothills east of Francis Peak at Hardscrabble Creek in 18 inches of snow. Sky, a 6-foot-tall strong guy, struggled to barely walk perfectly in the 18-inch snow, let alone run.
Our ancestors would wait for other animals to take down their prey and then scare away the hyenas or lions just long enough for us to grab some meat and run away with it. Wouldn't that make sense then that the Sasquatches would utilize the same strategies as human ancestors did?
If the creature they saw in the footage was actually real, then it had to be way taller than Sky and had to be way stronger for it to run in the 5 times thicker snow of the mountain. The researchers were amazed by what they saw and the results they had gotten by letting one of them walk in the snow. After the incident, people started asking if anyone had searched for tracks. If the creature was really running in the snow, it had to leave some tracks, right? Some suggested using a drone to explore where the supposed Bigfoot was seen running up a steep mountainside near one of the Wasatch Front's high peaks. A helicopter pilot, curious after watching the video, decided to fly over the mountain to look for signs. What he found shocked him. The tracks were there, although the strong winds at the mountain's top were slowly erasing them, making the evidence fade away. The evidence was there. The researchers made it clear that John wasn't claiming the creature caught on camera was Bigfoot. It had been seen running uphill on a steep, icy mountainside with deep, wind-swept snow. On top of that, John also didn't say that the giant footprints in the large trackway belonged to Bigfoot. Still, the evidence was hard to dismiss. The steep terrain and unusual tracks left a lingering question of what it was that had been captured on camera. In their expertise, the researchers knew that this trackway was consistent with most realistic Bigfoot trackways. Based on what the researchers knew from other footage, the brisk pace of trackways made by Bigfoot usually had long strides. Additionally, the footprints were directly in front of each other, as if the creature were walking a tightrope. Perhaps one or both of these pieces of video were a clear indication of the existence of the creature. Yet the evidence doesn't stop there. Night in the woods gone wrong. On a dark, quiet night, a man found himself face to face with a nightmare he could never have expected. The man remains anonymous, unwilling to let his identity be public, but his story has spread like wildfire because he captured something horrifying. Clear images of what can only be described as Bigfoot staring straight through his window. How did his story begin? It all started as an innocent escape that quickly turned into a chilling memory he'll never shake. Seeking peace, the man had retreated to a small cabin deep in Washington's wilderness, far from towns, people, and the constant noise of everyday city life. He was searching for calm, hoping the ancient trees and the serene winds would help him recharge. But nothing could prepare him enough for what he was about to encounter.
These people reported large, scary monsters. They would actually stalk them in their home. The family that was reporting these sightings believed that the Sasquatch killed their German shepherd by snapping its neck. The police themselves came to the conclusion that this was in fact a credible report of something incredible happening.
On his second night, as he sat alone by the fireplace, soaking in the silence, a shadow crept up. At first it was nothing, just something catching the corner of his eye. Maybe it was just the wood settling in. At least, that's what he thought. But as he got up to close the blinds, his heart dropped. Outside, through the cold glass of the cabin window, a face was watching him, and to make matters worse, it wasn't human. The figure's face was massive, framed by tangled, dark hair. Its eyes were deep-set and gave off a faint, unnatural glow, piercing through the night with an unsettling intelligence. The creature stood tall on two legs in the shadows. His skin prickled as he realized it was watching him, studying him. Realizing this, every muscle in his body froze. He knew the stories about the creature and had heard the legends people laughed about, yet here he was, staring into the face of one of those very tales. Gathering what little courage he had left, he reached for his phone. His hands shook, making the first few photos blurry, but he kept clicking, each flash lighting up the creature's face for a brief, terrifying instant. Despite the flashlight, the creature didn't flinch. Instead, it only seemed more curious, almost entertained by his shaky movements. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature turned and vanished into the darkness beyond the cabin's glow, leaving the man with nothing but his hammering heartbeat and a deep, bone-chilling fear. Following this scary encounter, the man couldn't sleep. Hours passed, and with every creak and rustle from outside, he imagined the creature coming back. When dawn finally broke, he dared to look at the photos. Most were blurred messes, but a few captured a clear, undeniable outline of something massive and powerful lurking outside his window. Still shaken, he thought of sharing his experience with the world. On the one hand, he feared ridicule from the masses. This is because Bigfoot sightings, after all, often ended with accusations of hoaxes and attention-seeking.
We believe that Sasquatches are probably moving about in kind of loose groups. So, in the kind of habitat they like to live in, they wouldn't be able to see the other individuals in their family groups. They would have to call for them, whether it's mating or socialization or feeding.
But he also knew he had witnessed something rare, maybe even groundbreaking. After much hesitation, he decided to post the pictures online, using a fake name to avoid backlash. He uploaded them to several Facebook groups that focused on the subject, hoping to connect with people who might believe him, and the images went viral. Almost instantly, Bigfoot enthusiasts and researchers got hooked by his story, their excitement causing countless debates online. Some claimed this was it, the proof they had been waiting for. People shared his photos across forums, blogs, and social media, and stories poured in from others who swore they had seen the same creature in the forests of Washington. And just like that, the online debates began. Some skeptics examined the photos, pointing out the blurry edges, the lack of a video, and the absence of any other witnesses to confirm the man's claims. To them, the story seemed too perfect, just another tall tale thrown into the mix. But to those who believed, the details only strengthened their conviction. They noted the unique posture of the creature in the specific spot where it stood and even compared these images to older sightings, finding eerie similarities. They saw these new photos as confirmation, believing they had finally glimpsed the forest's most elusive giant. Despite posting the images, the man refused to get pulled into the chaos. He'd said what he had to say, and he'd shown what he'd captured. He let the photos speak for themselves, watching as his anonymous story took on a life of its own. With the attention the viral post was getting, the questions began. Why was Bigfoot watching him? What had brought this creature so close to a human dwelling? Some speculated that Bigfoot might be a nocturnal creature that got out only at night to avoid human eyes or to hunt in peace. That theory fits perfectly with this sighting, but it also raised the fear factor. The creature had shown itself at night, not out of chance, but by choice. This made people question whether Bigfoot was intentionally stalking the man or it was just a curious encounter. As more people debated, new theories emerged, each one stranger and more chilling than the last. Researchers noted that tales of creatures like Bigfoot in Washington dated back centuries, long before European settlers arrived. The tribes of the Pacific Northwest, including the Salish, Yakima, and Lummi, had spoken of a similar being, a hairy, towering figure they called Sasquatch. According to their lore, Sasquatch was a powerful but reclusive guardian of the forests, a creature respected and feared. For these tribes, the Sasquatch was not merely a tale, but a presence, a protector of nature itself. It stayed hidden, only emerging when disturbed or curious. Could this creature have been watching the man out of sheer curiosity, or was it something darker, a warning, a reminder that some parts of the forest were never meant to be disturbed? The days passed, but the man's unease remained. Each night, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was just outside, hidden but aware, watching him from the safety of the shadows. He tried to rationalize it, tried to tell himself it was a one-time thing, but the images lingered in his mind.
It is over 70,000 acres. Most of it is government protected. There are many nooks and crannies that people just do not go into. This could only be one of two things: a Sasquatch in the wild or a person pretending to be a Sasquatch in the wild. There are no other options.
He could see the creature's eyes faintly glowing in the dark, a silent reminder of the terror he had encountered all by himself. Online, his story continued to grow, splitting people between believers and doubters. But for those who felt the truth in his words, the photos were a haunting glimpse into something they'd only ever dreamed about. Some saw them as proof, others as a mystery, but all agreed on one thing. There was something out there in those woods, something that wasn't supposed to exist, at least according to mainstream science. The man's story, his photos, and the fear that followed him became a part of the legend, an addition to the endless tale of Bigfoot sightings. Yet, to him, it was more than a story. It was a memory, a piece of his life that had been twisted by the unknown. Now, every time he thinks back to that night, a shiver runs down his spine. He remembers the cabin, the silence, the slow, terrible realization that something was watching him. But what scares him most, even in his thoughts, is the fact that he stared at the creature in his eyes. And though he escaped without harm, he knows he'll never truly feel safe again, not with the knowledge that something out there, something wild and hidden, had chosen to reveal itself to him. Despite the efforts of the government to suppress the existence of the creature, what happens when the military have their own encounter? Military encounter. In February 1994, Miles and his team were deep in the Alaskan wilderness, working on one of their missions. Their goal was to simply sneak into an area, observe without being noticed, and leave without a trace. But something unexpected stopped them in their tracks and forced them to head back sooner than they had planned. Being special ops, Miles and his team were ready for the freezing Alaska and winter. All team members had skis to help them move across the snow and backpacks filled with other essential military gear.
Unlike Bigfoot, the Yeti is reputed to be extremely aggressive towards humans. There are a number of accounts of it attacking local villagers and killing their yaks, generally just displaying a nasty disposition altogether.
On top of that, they had meals and heavy clothing to keep them warm. They started their journey near Fairbanks, heading east past the Eielson Air Force Base. As expected, along the way, they faced challenging terrain: steep hills, the valleys, swampy patches, and dense woods. When they reached a particularly thick forest, Miles decided they needed to check if they could pass through or if they should find another way. For this reason, Miles instructed 2 crew members to switch to snowshoes, venture into the woods, and scout. That's when they found something they did not expect. They discovered large footprints in the snow. Each one was about 18 inches long and was spaced about 5 feet apart. Seeing this, Miles measured them with a tape measure he had on hand for deeper analysis. The prints were deep and clearly shaped, showing that whatever made them move smoothly through the snow, putting its legs high enough to leave clean marks without any smudging. It had to be a tall creature. This was nothing like they had seen before. When one of the soldiers tried to walk in the same way without snowshoes, his legs would sink into the snow to the level of his knees. These mysterious tracks suggested the existence of an unusual creature native to the area moving through deep snow. At least, that's what some of them thought. Would this discovery transform their routine training into an exciting encounter with the creature that had made these smooth movements? Excited to make their training program more interesting, their curiosity grew, and they called their expert tracker sergeant to examine the footprints further. As he observed the 18-inch footprints closely, he noticed clear toe shapes indicating a huge creature, possibly 9 feet tall and weighing between 500 and 700 pounds. Although these measurements were preliminary estimates, their nature was clearly extraordinary. For this reason, Miles and his team decided to follow the trail to learn more about the massive creature that was causing them. As they followed the tracks, they noticed how the creature moved through its environment. The path led them along ridges through the dense woods, always avoiding open areas, which suggested that the creature knew how to stay hidden. This behavior mirrored the team's own tactics of using the terrain to stay out of sight, which fascinated them.
When it goes over the edge, it almost falls over on the other side. So for me, I would expect that a Yeti has been in the snow and they would know how to maneuver from one side of a road to another side of the road.
Moving through the deep snow was tough. The cold terrain slowed them down, but they pressed on with their skis and snowshoes. Eventually, the daylight faded, and they set up camp, prepared their meals, and settled into their sleeping bags. By late evening, the campsite was quiet, clear and cold, with a gentle breeze in the air. But the most surprising thing was about to unfold. Around 4 a.m., Miles was woken up by a deep, distant, eerie sound in the dark of the night. It was a howl that echoed all over the snowy wilderness. The sound was uniquely deep and resonant, unlike anything Miles had heard before. At first, he thought it might be a wolf, which would be a normal thing in the wilderness of Alaska, but this howl was different. It was deeper, almost like a roar hinting at something much larger. Miles stayed awake, listening intently as the forest returned to silence, which did not last long. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by a new louder sound approaching their camp, suggesting a large animal, possibly a moose, was nearby. The noise intensified and then instantly stopped about 100 feet away, leaving an unsettling stillness. Being a special operative and the team leader, Miles was convinced that whatever was out there was still learning and watching the campsite. As Miles listened closely, the noise resumed from the southeast, not approaching or receding near the campsite, but moving back and forth, snapping branches under its weight. This definitely woke up the rest of the team members, and one by one, they emerged from their tents to investigate. Although they were all good at tracking, they had their sergeant lead the tracking exercise as he was the expert. They tried to find the source of the noise, but the rustling stopped again, putting them back in a state of loud silence until a terrifying howl that escalated to a roar pierced the silence. What they expected to be an exciting routine was turning out to be an unpredictable expedition, yet that was just the beginning. After a few moments of strange sounds, their unsettling encounter continued. A loud, clear scream echoed through the hills, lasting several seconds before silence returned. Quickly, they scanned the forest with flashlights but saw nothing. Armed only with basic gear and no ammunition, they felt too vulnerable to continue the pursuit, considering that the creature they were after seemed to be intelligent enough to remain stealthy. As dawn neared, they heard a tree forcefully falling. The loud cracking sound convinced them to leave immediately. By 4 a.m., they began packing, planning to depart with the sunrise around 8:30 to 9 a.m. Before leaving, Miles and another soldier decided to check the area one last time. they discovered more large footprints in a freshly broken pine tree. According to Miles, this was evidence that the creature had been moving around there. On top of that, the sight of a cleanly broken tree and a fresh footprints suggested the presence of a large, powerful creature lurking in the area.
One particular story from Alaska, hunters shot a moose and tracked it, and when they got to the area, there was blood everywhere and 18-inch long footprints, but no sign of the moose whatsoever. Whatever left 18-inch footprints brought the moose with it.
This compelling yet intimidating evidence of the wild, unpredictable terrain they had entered left them no choice. Concerned about safety and maintaining focus on the mission, the team, led by Miles, chose to keep their encounter private to avoid distractions and unnecessary rumors. They agreed that discussing their experiences could detract from their professional duties, and that silence was a form of respect for the formidable wilderness they had faced. As they departed the campsite, their collective silence reflected a deep respect for the untamed nature they had encountered. After their Alaskan journey, Miles and his team chose not to discuss the unusual events they experienced, fearing they could lead to complications and unwanted scrutiny at their base. Additionally, they learned from Anthony, a survival expert from northeastern Washington who trained at the Fairchild Air Force Survival School. This school emphasized crucial survival skills, including navigating with detailed topographical maps that show typical wildlife and had an interesting illustration of Sasquatch or Bigfoot. This unusual inclusion of Bigfoot on a government-issued map piqued Miles's interest, especially given their recent mysterious encounter. The depiction of Bigfoot fueled his curiosity about what they might have discovered had they pursued the strange tracks deeper into the wilderness. Following this encounter, Miles was haunted by the possibility that they had come into a direct encounter with Bigfoot. This was clear since the footprints they discovered were unlike those of any known local wildlife, moving with stealth and grace not seen in other animals native to the area. This, along with the depiction of Sasquatch on a government survival map, led Miles to contemplate the existence of undiscovered creatures in the wilderness. Furthermore, this incident deeply affected the team, showing how much of the natural world remained mysterious and uncharted to them. Despite their training, they were reminded of their own limits in understanding the vast wilderness. Following this encounter, Miles and his team's understanding of the wilderness as a place full of nature's unresolved mysteries was changed, and to them, it was not just a venue for testing their survival skills.